Hey, everybody, welcome to the Leadership Loading Podcast. I'm your host, Jason McLaren. Today, my guest is Anna Sabino. Anna Sabino. Give her the respect she earns with that name there. She's a brand strategist and business coach, working to help you make your online persona the best that you can and create a successful business around it if you choose to. Obviously, not everybody wants to be an online personality, but we're going to talk a little bit about that and kind of some of the tips you can use to get out there if you want to or help others. So Anna, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks.
So yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into content creation.
Thank you. So I love that intro, by the way. I love that you said that it's not necessarily that everybody wants to have that persona and wants to be famous, but I think it's important to develop and build that personal brand. And that's actually what attracted me to business coaching and helping people show up how they want to be known online. And there are so many ways to do that. So I got inspired by the possibilities, by the opportunities, and by so many ways to help people.
Definitely. And what's your subscriber count? I think I was looking at your website earlier, and what are you, like 50,000 or something?
Yeah, so all over the platforms, I'm at over 50,000 subscribers and followers, and it's amazing. Of course, it's great to make such a big impact, but it's also important to know why we're doing it all. Why the 50,000? What's for? What type of message? What are we doing online?
Definitely, because you're not going to get a subscriber or somebody that wants to watch your message if they're not into what you're talking about. So, and there's all kinds of niche areas and that sort of thing. And I think we talked about it earlier about really the possibilities are endless on what you want to do. So how would you guide someone into that if they wanted to, let's start off with, not be a content creator, but get involved around content creation without actually being the face on the camera?
Awesome. This is such a great question because you don't actually have to be the face on camera. There's so much pressure about being on video. Get on video. Video is everything. But I actually really disagree. There are so many people who like reading. There are so many people who like listening. I know this is also a video podcast, but there are many shows that don't record video. So you technically don't have to be on video to share your message. You can write, you can record the episodes, many different ways. And even if you do video, you can only do voiceovers and you can have B-roll under your voiceover. So the possibilities are there. It's just for us to grab them. Yeah.
Definitely. I had a guest up to 2-3 days ago. We recorded the episode and he couldn't do video because just where he was at, he couldn't do video. So I said, well, you're going to be my first trial. We're going to run B-roll over this whole show just to put it on the video and go from there. But that kind of rolls into my next question. So matching what you do to your strategy. So obviously going on shows or podcast or anything like that, making sure it matches with your strategy. You don't want to go on a show that doesn't relate to your strategy, right?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question because a lot of my clients, because that's what I do, I'm a business strategist and content strategist. So I help people choose the right podcast and get on the right podcast. And at the beginning, when we get on shows, it can be very tempting to just accept all the invites and just do it all because it's good for the ego, right? It can be tempting. Like, oh, somebody wants to interview me. But we do have to remember what type of audience we're talking to, what type of topics we're going to be talking to. And the most important thing is, what do we want to be known for? The topics we're talking about will be there in the World Wide Web for a long time. Like just today, I got a LinkedIn message. I used to write for Huffington Post from somebody who noticed one of my articles that I wrote 5 years ago. So we have to be careful as far as what we share and also what type of content we share, what type of interviews we give, because this is the picture we are painting online. This is the brand we're creating. This is what we're going to be known for.
Definitely. And we talked, I got a couple things on that. So we talked earlier about getting people on shows and people wanting to hear the stories of people. This podcast is about leadership, but everyone's had that leadership experience in their life. So with that, can people, they don't have to be like a media expert, right, to go on a show to share their experience.
Oh my goodness. I just know that people who are exposed to different types of teams and dynamics in teams have so much to share, and we can learn so much because we are all so different. So how do we deal with different personalities? And we experience that in a corporate setting. We experience that in the army. We experience that within our family, with friends. This is all about coexisting in the same space. It doesn't have to be even a physical space, together. How do we communicate? What type of personalities go well with others? The stories that come out from them. I'm sure your audience has so many incredible stories that we as listeners would love to hear.
Yeah, and I think people want to hear stories that resonate with them. So I finally got one of my former coworkers in the Air Force to agree to come on. He's coming on in a couple of weeks, and we'll get his episode out there. But also, I think that just finding a brand and finding a niche that fits with you. And we were talking about different techniques and strategies. So what are some strategies that people can use when they do get out there and start making their own content?
Oh, so I would say the first question I would ask myself is, why do we want to do that? And the three common reasons of why we want to put ourselves out there and create content is, one, very often it's to process some type of information. So it's stories from our past that we need to process. Maybe we want to warn other people not to do the same thing, etc. The second reason why we want to put ourselves out there is just to get more courage, because there are so many people who are just scared of putting themselves out there. How are they going to sound? What are they going to look like? So building that courage would be the second reason. And the third reason would be to build a business. And these reasons can really just kind of shift over time. And we can hop from getting courage. Once we get courage, then we build a business. But as far as processing, I would strongly suggest to really think and realize that these episodes and that content will be there for years to come. So if if something is fresh on our minds, let's say, we're going through a divorce and we are on a relationship podcast and we talk about the divorce, let's be prepared. Then 5 years from now, we may be asked about that divorce episode, right? So do we want to be known for that? Do we want to put our persona, and do we want this to be a part of our story, or should we just save it for other venues, for our friends, for a therapist or something? So I always say, just think what you want to be known for, think what you want to be built. And I would suggest to look into the future instead of looking in the past and kind of, chronologically presenting the past. We could do that, but then let's ask ourselves, how can the past experiences and lessons and tips help our future, what we want to build in the future as far as career and personality online?
Definitely. I think if anyone's watched the confirmations they've been doing right now with the Senate and the people that are being confirmed, they definitely will dig up those past episodes or past tweets and ask you about them. So, that's also something that I work on, especially in these. So I've got this podcast, and then this show is a disaster podcast is my personal one. This one's with Go Heroes, but you you not only have to be careful on what you're talking about, but also, like you said earlier, it can be useful for years to come. I think some of my YouTubes from that other channel, the most trending one are their older or some older ones because people are still finding that data and using it today.
Oh, yes, that's a great point. It is really worth sharing evergreen lessons. So we had like the whole like mess virus going on, etc. And a lot of people are tempted to just like cover it. But let's just think about it. 5 years from now, that information is not going to be as relevant as it is right now. So maybe having a nice balance between things that are happening in the moment and things that are evergreen, that will always be needed, always be searched for, could be like a good balance.
Definitely. And so tell us about some strategies. Let's focus on some different what are they called? Different outlets. So like Instagram, TikTok. What is like the go-to strategy that you look for? Like, we can start with Instagram and then go to TikTok and that sort of thing. Or does everyone need to get on all those?
Oh yeah, this is also a really, really good question. So we are so tempted to just be everywhere, especially when we hear that somebody has a huge success somewhere. So we just want to follow because it seems like easy. Oh yeah, this grass is much greener than my grass, right? So we're just gonna like go kind of and follow because we're tempted. And I really want to warn everybody and even warn myself sometimes. It's a great reminder that we just don't know the context. Don't know the context. So as an example, I had a friend who went viral on YouTube with YouTube Shorts, and he started gaining subscribers very fast. So when you look at his channel and you see how fast he's growing, you may be tempted to start making shorts yourself and think that this is the holy grail. This is the answer. But what we don't know, but what I know is that prior to going viral on YouTube, he made 1,000 TikToks. Okay. So 1,000 TikToks, perfected his strategy, and then got on YouTube. So the springboard to getting known and growing really fast, was pretty strong in his case. It's not that he just woke up, started making YouTube shorts and got, famous right away and started making creator money. It's he did have that context that nobody knew. Most people didn't know, but he shared with me. So I would say the first question I would ask myself is like, where is my audience? Are people who I'm trying to target on TikTok? Are they on Instagram? Are they on LinkedIn? And, also I would just ask myself, what do I want to do? Where do I want to be? Because, it's our life too. Like how do we like creating? There are so many ways to create. We don't have to force ourselves to do something that we don't like doing. Blogs, articles are still going strong if we know how to do it well, if we are consistent. Short form videos, of course, but then also the videos with the B-roll, with just the voiceover, or being a guest on podcasts with just voice. So there are many opportunities out there. I would say, where is our audience? Where is our audience very likely? And then what do we like doing as creators?
Definitely. I think that looking at your audience, so like obviously this is more of a professional type podcast. So it's not going to buy well on TikTok, but the people on there may be in the same transition and like what's coming out of there. We actually take a 1-minute clip from each episode and put it on there. And we were talking about that earlier. And but yeah, I mean, the podcast format's great for people that are trying to transition their career or grow themselves and get out of the rut that they're in. So it comes out well, especially if you're in the car driving, you can listen to it. And then a lot of times I just put on YouTube. And so, like you said, the B-roll, most of the stuff I watch on YouTube is B-roll type videos that are educational or or whatever, and they use B-roll from historical advantages and that sort of thing. And so it comes off well. And if you look at those, some of those have, 20 million views. And that's why
Yeah.
a lot of the kids stuff is so prevalent, because it's, people playing with Play-Doh or something. And the kids just watch it over and over and over.
Yeah, I agree. And also a lot of people watch while driving. So they don't watch, they listen. So that's why, I mean, so many of us like started commuting again, or just like driving, or dropping the kids off, or all that. So that there is a huge audience for just listening. And actually, listeners pay more attention than viewers who also listen. Because, when we watch something, we can go to the fridge, just like multitask, fold laundry or something. When we listen, it's we are like full on attention, and it's proven that actually podcast listeners take action more than viewers. So
Definitely. So I was looking at something on your YouTube. Are you a fan of Gary Vee?
oh yeah, I mean, he definitely started this hustle culture with documenting his life and going really, really strong. But, speaking of context, I actually had a pleasure of meeting him in 2009 when he was still putting his Wine Library TV episodes. So he posted 500 episodes that nobody watched.
Right.
Okay. So before even getting anywhere, he was doing that. And another thing that he was doing, he was responding to every single email. So I still have like actual responses from him from 2009 of like, great job. Good to see you, Anna. Like, and he would spend hours and hours to like 3 or 4 in the morning to respond to everybody and to make these personal connections. And then he blew up like crazy. I think there are 26 people on his content team.
Wow. I know I watch a lot of his stuff, especially like the trash talk where he goes garage selling and stuff. And you just always see different camera angles. And I'm like, how many people are following you with a camera? But, I mean, that's his job, right? That's his whole company.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it kind of makes sense. That's like me and my full-time job. I've got 40 something people here, but they all do what we do here. So yeah, definitely. All right. And so if I had 1 minute if I caught you on the sidewalk, we're walking and I said, hey, what's your leadership tip for the day? What would you say?
I'd say for clarity, it's best to get exposure. I would say clarity comes with exposure. So the more we put our message out there, the more we share by writing, by filming, the more clarity we'll get, because we're going to get the feedback from our audience. So yeah, clarity comes with exposure.
Definitely. I think this podcast and all the stuff that you've done and your content creation, just meeting all the different people has been helpful, but also just the different mantras and tips that everyone gives. It comes out to help everyone and bring value to the audience. So.
Totally. And also like what type of questions I'm getting asked over and over, what type of DMs I'm getting, messages I'm getting, what do people want to know? It's impossible to know that when we're just like closed in our own room, office. It's impossible to get these answers. That's why it's so important to just put ourselves out there, even if we still are not clear on the new idea, on how we want to transition. Put yourself out there. You are not putting anything in stone. Like you're not committing to anything, and just start sharing different messages. Just treat it as a sandbox, so much fun. And then it's going to become more clear of what the audience wants to know, because ultimately we are creating for our audience. We're not creating for ourselves. So we're going to get the answers from putting ourselves out there.
Definitely. So how could people find you?
AnnaSabino.com. There is actually a free pitch that you can send to podcast hosts to get your first exposure. And again, you don't have to be on video. Like this is a video podcast, many shows that don't have a video. And you could just start reaching out to these podcast hosts and share your story over and over and see what resonates with different audiences and get an idea of what's next.
Definitely. All right, well, I'll put that in the show notes. Thank you for coming
Thanks.
on, Anna.
Thank you, Jason.
There are thousands of leadership and management podcasts to choose from. We're glad you chose the Leadership Loading Podcast, a Go Heroes production. If you'd like to support Go Heroes Inc., visit www.goheroes.org. And with that, it's time to wrap up today's show. Thank you so much for listening. We sincerely hope you liked it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your family and friends. Let's all grow together. Thanks for listening to the Leadership Loading Podcast. Leadership Inspired.